Hello, and welcome to our channel where we explore the world of Odoo. In this video, we will learn how to create a custom Odoo module that utilizes Faker.JS to generate random, realistic-looking demo data. As developers, creating dummy data for demonstration purposes is often a necessary task when working with Odoo. While there are several methods to achieve this in Odoo, the available options may not always provide the most realistic-looking demo data. Manually creating data files in formats such as Excel, CSV, or XML can be both time-consuming and challenging, especially for someone like me who find it very challenging to create even the smallest number of dummy names. And generating data with the populate command line gives us not very realistic-looking datasets. Fortunately, by utilizing Faker.JS, we can create more varied and realistic-looking data without much effort. Additionally, this approach demonstrates the versatility of Odoo's web framework by handling client-side data generation. Before we jump to the code, let's see what the module does first. First, the module can generate realistic-looking dummy data for words, names, numbers, and more. Second, it can generate random data for relational fields. Third, it works for fields that depend on other fields as well. This is useful for fields like the state in res.partner, which depends on the country field. Fourth, we can specify our own values, and the module will select one of them. Fifth, we can add domain restrictions. And last but not least, sixth, we can make it call a method of the corresponding model after the record is saved. Now, let's dive into the code. We'll start with a manifest file, directory structure, and init files. Then, we'll prepare the relax.ng schema file. Let me walk you through it step by step. The Faker view type starts with a Faker element, which can have optional attributes like record action and record action mode. The record action attribute represents the method of the corresponding model that will be called after a record is saved, while the record action mode tells whether to call the method for all generated records or only for randomly selected records. The Faker view type requires one or more field elements, which must have a name attribute. A field element can be a Faker field, meaning a random value from Faker.JS will be assigned to the field. Or it can have a selection of values that will be randomly selected. If it's a many-to-many or many-to-one field, you can set dependency on another field and assign domain restrictions for the field. Next, we need to register the Faker view type on the server side. We add the Faker view to the view mode field of the action window view model and the type field of the UI view model. We also override the getViewInfo method of the UI view model to include the Faker view and set the icon for it. Additionally, we may need to generate dummy data for one-to-many fields, so we validate the Faker element as a child of those fields. On the JavaScript side, we create a new view with its own controller, renderer, arch parser, and model, and then register the view. The controller's main task is to prepare information for the model. This is implemented in the prepareModelParams function. Since the Faker view can have another Faker view inside one of its fields, we create another function called prepActiveField to recursively process the fields. The rest of the code passes information to the renderer, including a callback function for the generation process. The renderer's layout is similar to the statistic view we created in the Using Odoo Web Framework tutorial series, with the addition of two input elements to set the number of dummy data to be generated and a button to start the generation process. The code for the renderer is straightforward, as it only displays information about the Faker fields along with the input elements and the button. Please note that it only supports displaying one level of children. If you need to display more, well, I'll leave it for your exercise. When the Generate button is clicked, the generation process starts by executing the Generate Demo Data function. This function has two main parts, generating dummy data and saving it, and calling the record action if specified. The code might seem complex, but it's a simple process in essence. To generate random values, we create a recursive function called GenerateDemoData again, but with underscore prefix. For every field defined in the Faker view, it checks if the field is a one-to-many field, then it recurses with the child Faker view information. If the field is a many-to-one or many-to-many field and is dependent to another field, it's stored for later processing. We do this because we don't know how the fields are arranged, and finding which depend on which would be too bothersome and complicate things unnecessarily. Other than these two types of fields, a random value will be generated using the getValueForField function, which then calls getRandomLookupID for many-to-one and many-to-many fields, or calls getRandomValue function for other types of fields. The getRandomValue function assigns either a randomly selected value from the value specified in the FakerView definition or a random value from Faker.JS to the field. And we need to pay attention as there are some incompatibilities between the values generated by Faker.JS and Odoo's ORM service, such as generating random URLs for images while Odoo expects base 64 image data. We also need to serialize the date object generated by Faker.JS into a format that the ORM service can accept. After assigning values to independent fields, we process dependent fields in a loop. If the field on which the current field depends has a value, we generate a random value based on it and any domain restrictions specified. If the field on which the current field depends doesn't have a value yet, we put the current field back at the end of the queue. And that's basically it. We've created a module which utilizes Faker.JS to generate dummy data. To use FakerView type, you need to define a FakerView for the model you want to generate dummy data for. You can add a new view definition to the Odoo Faker module itself, but I recommend creating a separate module for better organization. Defining a FakerView is similar to defining other view types. Create a new record for the UI view model with the Faker element as the root element of the Arch field. On your screen, you can see an example of a FakerView for the ResPartner model. In this example, we force the isCompany field to be false by providing only one possible value. On the other hand, we provide several possibilities for the type field. For the name field, we use the person module of Faker.JS and utilize the fullName method to generate random person names. For the image field, we use the image module from Faker.JS and generate the image along with the height and width. We also use Faker.JS to generate random values for the email and address fields. To demonstrate dependency handling, we set the DEP and link parameters for the state field so that the FakerView only generates states available in the selected country. Lastly, to show an example of calling a method after saving the records, you can see a FakerView for the sale order model on your screen. In this case, we call the ActionConfirm method of the sale order model. By doing so, the record status changes from quotation to sales order. Depending on your use case, you might want to override the confirmation values of the sale order model as shown here. This is needed if you don't want the date order field to be overridden by the ActionConfirm method. Another way to use this feature is to create a new method for the corresponding model, allowing you to process the generated data in any way you need. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and share this video. Also, subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on my experiments and tutorials.